The stars burned like cold fire above the wasteland. The land was silent, empty, and strange. A single human walked through the dust. His name was Daniel. He was tired, his boots heavy, his breath slow. For weeks he had been moving from one forgotten planet to another. He had no family, no home, no reason to stop. He only carried a small pack of food, water, and tools. Daniel was used to silence. Space was full of it. But this world was different. It felt like eyes were watching him, though. The land was empty. The sky was a dull red, the ground cracked like old skin. Strange plants glowed faintly in the shadows. They looked alive, but weak, as if they feared the night. He walked until his legs ached. Then he heard something. A soft cry. It was not the wind. It was a voice. Weak. Small. Daniel stopped. His hand moved to his old blaster. He waited. The sound came again, a child's voice shaking with hunger. He followed the sound and found her. She was small, thin, and alien. Her skin was pale blue, her eyes too large, glowing faintly in the dim light. She looked no older than 10 human years, though he could not be sure. Her clothes were torn, her face streaked with dust. She sat by a broken stone, her arms wrapped around herself. When she saw him, she froze. Fear filled her glowing eyes. Daniel raised both hands to show peace. "Easy," he said softly. "I'm not here to hurt you." The child's lips trembled. She whispered something in her language. He could not understand. But hunger is a language older than words. He opened his pack and took out a ration bar. Plain human food, dry but filling. Slowly he placed it on the ground and pushed it toward her. She stared at it, then at him. Her thin fingers shook as she picked it up. She sniffed it, then took a small bite. Her eyes widened. She ate fast, desperate, like someone who had not tasted food in days. Daniel watched in silence. He felt something stir in his chest. It had been a long time since he had seen a child eat with such hunger. When she finished, she looked at him, again. This time there was no fear, only a strange calm. Then she spoke, this time in broken, careful words. "You want wife?" Daniel blinked. He thought he had heard wrong. "What?" The girl nodded, as if she understood his confusion. She put her small hand on her chest. "Mother, perfect for you." The words were sharp, clear, not a mistake. Daniel's mouth went dry. "What did you say?" The girl stood slowly, her legs weak but her voice firm. "You give food. You save me. My mother. She is perfect. For you." For a moment, Daniel thought it was a joke, but there was no humor in her eyes, only truth. The wind moved across the cracked ground, carrying the silence. Daniel felt the world shift around him. He had given food to a child, nothing more. Yet in her culture it meant something else, something heavy. He tried to smile, tried to shake his head. "I don't think you understand," but the girl cut him off. "No mistake. Mother will see you. Mother will know." She turned and began to walk. Her steps were slow but sure. She did not look back. Daniel stood frozen. Every instinct told him to leave, to walk away, to vanish into the wasteland, to forget this strange meeting. But curiosity burned inside him. Why would a child say this? Why would she offer her own mother to a stranger? The stars above seemed to lean closer. The ground felt alive beneath his feet. Something waited ahead. At last, Daniel sighed. "Damn it," he whispered. He picked up his pack and followed. The girl walked ahead, her thin figure glowing faintly in the strange red night. Daniel followed her into the unknown, and in his heart, one question grew louder than the silence around him. What kind of world had he just stepped into? The child moved ahead of Daniel, her small feet leaving prints in the dust. The night grew darker, but the path began to glow. Strange plants lit the ground like soft lamps. Their blue light pulsed slowly, as if they were breathing. Daniel kept his hand close to his weapon. He had seen many alien worlds, but never one like this. The silence was heavy, almost waiting. The girl did not speak again. She walked with the quiet certainty of someone who knew exactly where she was going. After an hour, Daniel saw shapes in the distance. At first, they looked like broken stones, but as he came closer, he realized they were homes. Dozens of them, rising from the ground like shells or carved caves. The village looked alive, as if the rock itself had grown to form shelter. The people were waiting. Figures stood at the edges of the homes. Tall, thin, with pale skin that shimmered faintly in the light of the plants. Their eyes glowed the same way as the child's. They did not speak. They only watched. Daniel slowed his steps. He felt their stares cut through him. Not hostile, not warm either. It was something else. Expectation. The girl lifted her hand and pointed toward him. "He gave food," she said in her broken tongue. A whisper moved through the crowd. It was like wind, soft but sharp, carrying from one voice to another. Daniel could not understand the words, but he felt the weight. He was being judged. One of the villagers stepped forward. An old man, or perhaps not a man at all. His features were too sharp, too alien. His voice was calm but deep. He spoke in the same broken language the girl had used. "You gave food to the child. You gave life." His glowing eyes fixed on Daniel. "Now you belong to us." Daniel's stomach tightened. "Wait," he said. "I don't belong anywhere. I was just helping." The alien did not answer. The whisper spread again, this time stronger. Daniel could hear one word repeating. "Chosen." The girl touched his arm. Her small hand was light, but her grip was firm. "Mother waits," she said. Daniel wanted to pull back. Every muscle in his body told him to turn, to walk away. But the eyes of the villagers were locked on him. If he left now, he was sure they would not let him go easily, so he nodded slowly. "All right, take me to her." The villagers parted like shadows as the girl led him deeper into the village. The homes glowed faintly from within, warm orange light spilling out of carved windows. Strange markings covered the walls, symbols that looked half art, half language. Children peeked out from doorways. Some smiled, some only stared. Adults bowed their heads slightly as he passed, but none spoke. It was as if every soul in this place had been waiting for him, though he had never stepped foot here before tonight. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. At the center of the village stood the largest home. Unlike the others, it was taller, shaped like a tower of stone. Blue vines climbed its surface, glowing like veins of light. At the entrance, two tall figures stood guard. They carried long weapons made of bone and crystal. The girl stopped at the foot of the tower. She looked up, her voice soft but clear. "Mother is here." Daniel swallowed. He had faced raiders, pirates, and hostile soldiers before. He had walked through battlefields where the air was full of smoke and blood. But he had never felt fear like this, not fear of death, but fear of the unknown. The guard stepped aside. One of them spoke in a low voice. "Enter. She waits." Daniel hesitated only a moment. Then he stepped forward. The air inside the tower was warmer, carrying the faint scent of smoke and flowers. The walls glowed with strange light, the patterns shifting like they were alive. And then he saw her. She sat on a raised stone seat, her posture straight, her presence commanding, the alien mother. Her skin was the same pale blue as the child's, but her glow was stronger like moonlight. Her hair fell long and silver, catching the light as if made of threads of fire. Her eyes met his, deep, endless, and calm. She did not smile. She did not frown. She only studied him as if she could see through his skin down into his bones. Daniel felt his throat tighten. He was a traveler, a fighter, a man who thought he had seen everything. Yet under her gaze, he felt small. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was smooth, clear, almost human in tone. "You gave food to my daughter," she said. "You saved her life." Daniel nodded slowly. "Yes, but I only did what anyone would do." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Not anyone. Only you." The room fell silent. Daniel could hear his own heartbeat. The mother leaned forward, her silver hair sliding across her shoulder. Her next words were calm, but heavy, like chains. "You gave life. Now you are bound to ours. You will not leave. You are chosen." Daniel's blood ran cold. He wanted to speak, to argue, to laugh it off. But the way she said it, steady, final, left no space for denial. The girl moved to her mother's side and pointed at Daniel again. Her young voice rang out with certainty. "He will be your mate." Daniel stood frozen. Outside, the whispers of the village grew louder, echoing through the night. And in that moment, he realized the truth. He had walked into something far larger than he could escape. The chamber was quiet, but the silence felt alive. Daniel stood near the entrance, his pack still slung across his shoulder, his boots leaving dust on the polished stone floor. He had walked through deserts, through war zones, through the ruins of cities long dead, but never had he felt so out of place. The woman on the stone seat, the mother, watched him without blinking. Her glowing eyes were calm, steady, and unshaken. She looked less like a villager and more like a queen. Daniel cleared his throat. "I think there's been a mistake," he said. His voice sounded small in the large, glowing chamber. "I only gave your daughter some food, that's all, nothing more." The woman tilted her head. The silver strands of her hair caught the shifting light on the walls. She spoke softly, but every word carried weight. "You gave life. That is never only." Daniel opened his mouth, but the child stepped forward before he could speak. She touched her mother's arm and whispered, "He is the one." The mother's lips curved slightly. Not quite a smile, but something close. She rose from her seat. She was taller than he expected, her figure slim but strong. Every movement she made was deliberate, graceful, as if she had been trained her entire life to command respect. When she stopped in front of him, Daniel had to fight the urge to step back. Her presence pressed against him like invisible air. "You are human," she said. Her eyes moved across his face, his hands, his stance. "A traveler, a fighter, a man without roots." Daniel narrowed his eyes. "You don't know me." But her gaze did not waver. "I know enough. I know your kind. I have studied your people, though we have met few. You survive. You endure. You protect." She paused. "And you gave food to my child, though it cost you." Daniel frowned. His ration pack wasn't empty, but she was right. Food was rare on this world. He hadn't thought about the cost. He had only seen a starving child. "That's just what humans do," he muttered. Her eyes gleamed. "Exactly. That is why. You are chosen." The word struck like a hammer. Daniel shook his head. "Chosen? No, I didn't agree to anything. I'm not here to marry anyone." The mother studied him in silence. Then slowly she placed her hand over her heart. "You misunderstand, this is not a question. It is tradition. You save a child. You save a family. You are now part of that family. You are bound to me." Daniel's chest tightened. He took a step back. "I can't accept that. I don't even know your name." For the first time, something like amusement flickered in her eyes. "My name, in your tongue, would be Lyra." "Lyra?" he repeated, the sound strange on his lips. "Yes," she said. Then her voice softened, though it carried no less force. "And now you are mine." Daniel's jaw clenched. "No, that's not how this works. Not for me. I don't Belong here. The child gasped, her small hands clutching her mother's arm. Lyra, however, did not move. She only tilted her head again as if examining a puzzle piece. You think you have a choice, she said. But choices are illusions. You gave life, and in return, life is given to you. Do you not see? You are lost, wandering, empty. Here, you are no longer alone. Her words cut deep. Daniel hated how close they felt to the truth. He had been drifting for years, planet to planet, fight to fight, never staying, never belonging, yet he could not let her decide his fate. He forced a laugh, though it was thin. So what, I just become your husband? Just like that? Lyra's eyes held his, unblinking. Yes, Daniel shook his head. That's insane. She leaned, closer, her voice dropping low, almost a whisper. What is insane, traveler? To bind yourself to a people who will honor you, protect you, and give you purpose. Or to keep wandering until the stars swallow you, nameless and forgotten. Her words pressed against him like a weight he could not push away. Before Daniel could reply, a sound echoed from outside, drums, low and steady. The walls of the chamber seemed to hum with the rhythm. The whispers of villagers carried through, the stone repeating that same word he had heard before. Chosen, chosen. The child looked at him with wide, glowing eyes. It begins, she said softly. Daniel felt his stomach drop. What begins? Lyra stepped back, her expression calm, certain. The binding. The guards outside struck their weapons against the stone in unison. The whole village was preparing for something he did not understand. Daniel's heart pounded. He wanted to run, but the doorway seemed impossibly far. He wanted to fight, but the entire village stood outside. And yet, what terrified him most was not their numbers. It was the look in Lyra's eyes, a look that said everything had already been decided. Daniel's voice cracked as he spoke. I didn't ask for this. Lyra's reply was quiet, but final. No. But destiny rarely waits for permission. The drums outside did not stop. They pulsed like a second heartbeat, steady and slow. Daniel stood in the center of the glowing chamber, his hands clenched into fists. Lyra had returned to her seat, calm and regal, as if the entire world moved to her rhythm. The child sat beside her, eyes bright, watching him with something close to awe. Daniel's chest tightened. He had been in ambushes before. He had been surrounded by pirates, soldiers, mercenaries. But this was different. He was not facing weapons. He was facing belief. And belief, he knew, could be harder to fight than any blade. He cleared his throat. I don't know what you're planning, he said slowly. But I'm not part of it. I'm not staying here. I'll leave in the morning. The words sounded strong in his mouth, but weak against the echo of drums. Lyra tilted her head slightly. You misunderstand, Daniel. The binding is not tomorrow. It is tonight. His heart skipped. No, he said firmly. That's not happening. Her expression did not change. She looked at him the way one might look at a child throwing a tantrum. You gave life to my daughter. To refuse the binding now would dishonor her, me, and all who watch. Daniel stepped forward, anger rising. I didn't agree to any binding. In my world, we choose who we marry. We don't trap strangers with rules they don't understand. The child whispered something in their language, soft but urgent. Lyra listened, then gave a small nod. Her glowing eyes returned to Daniel. You think this is a trap? She said. But it is not. It is law. Older than me. Older than my mother, and her mother before her. It cannot be broken. Daniel clenched his jaw. His mind raced. He needed to get out. But if the entire village believed in this law, escaping would not be easy. Every face he had seen outside had been waiting, watching. If he ran, they would hunt him. Still, he had to try. What happens if I refuse? He asked. The chamber fell silent. The drums outside slowed. The glow of the walls seemed to dim. Lyra's voice was calm, but there was iron beneath it. If you refuse, you dishonor the bond. The punishment for dishonor is exile. Daniel frowned. Exile? That doesn't sound so bad. The child looked at him with wide eyes. Her small voice trembled. Exile is death. Daniel froze. Lyra nodded once. No one survives alone beyond these walls. The raiders will find you. The storms will break you. The land itself will consume you. Exile is not mercy. It is burial without a grave. The words settled in his chest like stones. He had thought he could walk away. Now he knew he could not. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, trying to think. So, either I marry you, or I die. That's my choice. Lyra's expression softened, though her eyes never wavered. Not death. Life. A place. A family. Purpose. Why do you see this as a cage, when it is a gift? Because it isn't my choice, he wanted to say. But the words caught in his throat. The drums outside shifted, faster now, louder. The villagers were preparing. Daniel felt the weight of their expectation pressing through the stone walls. He paced the chamber, his boots echoing. He needed a plan. He needed time. But the way Lyra spoke, the way the village moved, told him there would be no delay. The child stood and walked toward him. Her small hand tugged at his sleeve. Do not fear, she said softly. Mother is kind. She will care for you. You will not be alone anymore. Daniel looked down at her. Her eyes shone with innocent certainty. She believed every word, and that made it worse. He crouched to her level, forcing a smile. What's your name? He asked gently. The girl blinked, surprised. Then she whispered, Sira. Sira, Daniel repeated. The name felt fragile, like glass. Listen, I helped you because you needed help, that's all. I don't want anything in return. Her brows furrowed. But giving and binding are the same. It cannot be undone. Daniel swallowed hard. Even the child had been taught the same law. He was caught in a net woven long before he arrived. Lyra rose again, her voice strong now, echoing off the glowing walls. Enough waiting. The ritual begins. The guards entered the chamber, their weapons glowing faintly. They did not point them at Daniel, but their presence was clear. He was not free to leave. Daniel's pulse quickened. His mind screamed to fight, to break through, to run. But the villagers outside would block every exit. Lyra's gaze softened again. Do not fear, Daniel. This is not the end of your life. It is the beginning. The child, Sira, smiled at him, as if proud, as if she had delivered him a gift. Daniel stood frozen. His every instinct told him this was wrong, dangerous, impossible. Yet the law, the people, and the eyes of Lyra herself left no escape, and deep inside a new question twisted like a blade. If this was not a trap, then what was it really? The drums stopped. The sudden silence was worse than the sound. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest as the glowing chamber seemed to hold its breath. Lyra stood tall, her silver hair catching the light. Sira clung to her mother's arm, her wide eyes fixed on the entrance. Then came the sound. A howl. Low at first, then rising, sharp and hungry. It echoed through the stone walls and into Daniel's bones. The guards stiffened. Their glowing weapons hummed. One of them turned his head toward Lyra and spoke quickly in their language. Her face hardened, and for the first time, Daniel saw something like concern in her eyes. What was that? Daniel asked, his voice tight. Lyra's reply was simple. Raiders. Daniel's blood chilled. Before he could speak again, another sound joined the howls. Drums, but not the deep, steady beat of the village. These drums were wild, fast, chaotic. The ground trembled as if a storm was approaching. The guards moved. One shoved the heavy stone doors closed, another braced it with a long crystal spear. The glow from the walls flickered as though the village itself feared what was coming. Daniel clenched his fists. So, what happens now? Lyra looked at him, her voice calm but sharp. We fight. The next moment, the doors shook. Something massive slammed against them, making the chamber vibrate. Dust fell from the ceiling. Sira gasped and hid behind her mother. The guards shouted. The pounding on the doors grew stronger. Then came the screams. Villagers outside cut short, broken by the clash of metal and bone. Daniel's instincts kicked in. He dropped his pack to the floor and pulled out his blaster. The old weapon hummed to life, a faint red glow along its barrel. Lyra's eyes locked on it. A human weapon. Daniel checked the charge. Yeah, he muttered. And it's about to get some use. Another slam shook the doors. A crack spread through the stone. The guards raised their weapons, but Daniel could see it in their faces. Fear. Whatever was out there, they had seen it before. With a final crash, the doors burst inward. A shadow surged through. Tall figures wrapped in bone armor, their faces hidden by skull-like masks. Their weapons were jagged, cruel, dripping with strange black liquid that hissed as it touched the floor. Raiders. They rushed forward with a roar. The guards met them, crystal spears clashing against bone blades. The sound was harsh, sharp, too close. Daniel aimed and fired. His blaster spat red light, striking one raider in the chest. The creature shrieked and collapsed, smoke rising from. The hole burned clean through its armor. The villagers outside screamed louder now, but some fought back. Their glowing tools turned into weapons. The chamber echoed with chaos, shouting, clashing, the hum of crystal and the hiss of burning flesh. Sira clung to Lyra's side, trembling. Daniel fired again, hitting another raider. His hands moved without thought, trained by years of surviving ambushes on dead worlds. He dropped one, then another, forcing the raiders back. The guards shouted in shock. They had never seen such power. Lyra's eyes never left Daniel. For the first time, her calm mask cracked. There was awe in her face. "You fight like no other," she whispered. Daniel didn't answer. He had no time. One raider lunged for him, swinging a jagged blade. Daniel ducked, fired point blank, and the creature fell. More poured through the doorway. The guards struggled, outnumbered. One fell, his weapon shattering, his body dragged into the shadows. The other cried out, blood streaking his pale skin. Daniel's blaster whined. Low charge. He clenched his teeth. One shot left. A raider rushed for Sira. Her small scream tore through the noise. Daniel spun, aimed, and fired. The red bolt struck the creature in the head, dropping it instantly at her feet. Smoke rose from the mask. Sira's glowing eyes filled with tears. The weapon went dead in Daniel's hand. No more shots. Only him. He grabbed a fallen spear, its crystal tip buzzing faintly. He turned just in time to block another blow. The force rattled his arms, but he held firm. The raider hissed, shoving against him. Daniel gritted his teeth and shoved back, slamming the crystal tip into its chest. The creature screamed and collapsed. The fight dragged on, but slowly the raiders pulled back. The sound of their drums faded into the night. The howls grew distant. The survivors dragged their wounded away. Then silence. Daniel dropped the spear, his chest heaving. His arms shook from exhaustion, but he was still standing. Around him, the chamber was littered with broken weapons and the bodies of the fallen. Lyra stood tall, untouched. Her gaze was fixed on him. Sira clung to her side, her small voice trembling. "He saved us." The villagers outside began to gather. Their glowing eyes filled the doorway. Whispers spread quickly, the same word repeated, over and over, chosen, chosen, chosen. Daniel wiped the sweat from his forehead, glaring at them. "Don't look at me like that. I didn't do it for your ritual. I did it to survive." But the villagers didn't care. To them, his fight was proof. Proof of the law, proof of destiny. Lyra stepped closer, her voice soft, but steady. Now, you see, you are not just bound by tradition, you are bound by need. We cannot survive without you. Daniel froze, her words sinking deep. He had wanted to believe this was just culture, just law. But now he realized something darker. They hadn't bound him just because of tradition. They had bound him because they needed him. The fire still burned in the village square. Shadows danced on the stone walls, long and broken. The air carried the smell of smoke, blood, and scorched bone. The battle was over, but the silence that followed was heavy, as if the land itself mourned. Daniel sat on a low stone bench, his blaster lying empty across his knees. His hands were scraped, his arms sore, his chest tight from breathing dust and fear. He had fought before, but never like this. These people weren't soldiers. They were farmers, builders, children. Without him, they would have fallen. The villagers moved quietly, carrying the wounded, covering the dead. Their glowing eyes turned toward him again and again, whispering that word he was beginning to hate. Chosen. He wanted to shout at them, tell them he was no savior, no hero, no husband. But his throat was dry, and part of him feared the truth wouldn't matter. Belief had already trapped him tighter than chains. Lyra approached. Her silver hair shimmered in the firelight, her expression calm, but her eyes carried something new, a shadow of weariness, maybe sorrow. Sira clung to her side, her small face pale and tired. You fought as if the village was your own, Lyra said softly. Daniel looked up, his jaw tight. I fought because if I didn't, we'd all be dead. Don't twist it into something else. Lyra studied him for a long moment, then she sat across from him, her presence still as commanding as before. Sira curled against her mother, half asleep, listening anyway. You deserve the truth, Lyra said. Her voice carried no ceremony now, no ritual, only weight. Not the law, not the tradition, the truth. Daniel frowned. Finally. She looked at the fire for a long while before speaking. Our people are dying. Daniel said nothing. He waited. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly as she met his gaze. Long ago we were many. Our villages covered this land. Our ships traveled the stars. We had power, knowledge, strength. But war came. Not with outsiders, with ourselves. Her voice tightened, though it never broke. We tore our world apart. We poisoned the air, the rivers, even our own bodies. Generations later, the scars remain. Our children are born weaker each season. Our lifespans grow shorter. Our bloodline thins. Daniel felt a chill. He had heard stories like this before, civilizations that destroyed themselves, species fading into dust. But hearing it from her lips, seeing the flicker of pain in her glowing eyes, made it different. So what does that have to do with me? He asked. Lyra's voice was quiet, almost tender. Because you are human, and humans are strong. Your blood is untouched by the poison of this world. Your kind adapts, survives, thrives where others fall. To bind you to us is not only tradition, it is salvation. Daniel stiffened. You're saying, this isn't about ritual at all, you want me to breed? The bluntness of the word hung in the air. Sira stirred, but Lyra's hand gently soothed her. The mother's gaze did not waver. Yes, she said simply. That is part of it. With you, our line may grow strong again. My daughter's children and her children after could carry both our blood. They would endure. Daniel pushed to his feet, anger rising in his chest. So this whole thing, the law, the binding, the ceremony, it's all a cover. You don't care about me. You care about what I can give you. Lyra rose too, her voice sharp now. Do not mistake this for coldness. You are not a tool. You are hope. Do you not see? You fight when we cannot. You stand when we fall. Tonight, without you, my people would be ashes. Daniel shook his head. His voice cracked. I didn't come here to save anyone. I didn't ask for this. Lyra stepped closer, her presence pressing against him like heat from the fire. And yet you did save us. You did give life, not just to my daughter, to all of us. Do not deny what is already true. Daniel's breath came heavy. He wanted to scream, to run, to fight, but her words dug deep, and he could not stop the image that formed in his mind. Sierra's small face, pale and hungry, eating the ration bar like it was the only thing in the world. He had saved her, and by doing so, he had saved them all. His voice dropped, almost a whisper. And if I refuse? Lyra's eyes softened, but her answer was as heavy as stone. Then we will still die, slowly, quietly, until the last light fades from our eyes. And when that day comes, your choice will echo in every grave. The fire cracked. Sparks rose into the dark sky. The villagers' whispers carried through, the night blending with the crackle of flames. Chosen. Chosen. Daniel felt the weight of it press into his chest. He wasn't just trapped by law. He was trapped by need, by the truth. He looked at Lyra, at Sierra, at the glowing eyes of the villagers, who still clung to hope. And for the first time since he had landed on this world, he felt something worse than fear. He felt responsibility. The night was quiet again, but it was not peace. The fires in the village had burned low. Ash drifted in the air like soft snow. The villagers sat together in silence, their glowing eyes fixed on the broken walls, the dark horizon, the man who had stood with them when death came. Daniel stood apart from them. He leaned against a cracked stone wall, his empty blaster at his side, his thoughts louder than the silence. Lyra had told him the truth. Their world was dying. Their bloodline was thinning. And now, every whisper of chosen pressed on him like chains. He closed his eyes. He had never asked for this. He was a wanderer, a man without home, drifting from one world to the next. He had fought for pay, for survival, sometimes for nothing at all, but never like this, never with lives hanging on his choice. Footsteps echoed softly on the stone. He opened his eyes. Lyra was there, her silver hair glowing faintly, her face calm but lined with quiet weariness. Sierra walked beside her, small and fragile, her eyes filled with trust. Lyra stopped before him. She did not speak right away. She only studied him as if waiting for something. Finally, her voice broke the silence. It is time. Daniel's throat tightened. Time for what? Her gaze did not waver. For your choice. The words hit him harder than the raider's blades. Daniel forced a bitter laugh. Choice? Doesn't feel like I have one. If I stay, I'm bound to you. If I go, I'm exiled, left for dead. Lyra shook her head slowly. You see it too narrowly. To stay is not a prison, it is a future. To leave is not only your death, it is ours. Sierra tugged on Daniel's sleeve, her voice small. Please don't go. He looked down at her. The child he had saved, the one who had begun this chain of fate with a simple act of kindness. Her glowing eyes shone with hope. His chest ached. He wanted to tell her he couldn't, that he wasn't a hero, that he was no savior, but the words died in his throat. He turned his gaze back to Lyra. Why me? Out of all the stars, out of all the people in the universe. Why me? Lyra's voice was steady, but her eyes softened. Because you came when we needed you most. Because you gave when you had little. Because you fought when you could have fled, not because you are human, not because of blood, but because of who you are. Daniel's jaw clenched. He wanted to fight her words, to push them away. But deep down he knew they were true. He had always been running, always drifting. And yet here, for the first time, he had done something that mattered. The villagers began to gather again. One by one they formed a circle around him, their whispers rising like wind through trees. Chosen, chosen, chosen. The sound was not a trap anymore. It was a plea. Daniel felt his heart pound. His mind screamed to run, to escape, to find another empty world where no one expected anything of him. But his soul, The part of him he had buried under years of wandering told him to stay. He looked at Sira, at the hope in her small face. He looked at Lyra, proud and strong, but carrying the weight of a dying people. He looked at the villagers, broken yet unyielding, clinging to a single thread of survival. And for the first time in years, he stopped thinking about himself. He drew a long breath. "All right," he said quietly. The whispers fell silent. Every glowing eye turned to him. Daniel's voice was steady now, though his chest still ached. "I'll stay. I'll fight with you. I'll be what you need me to be." Sira's face lit with a smile. She threw her arms around him, small and warm. Daniel froze for a moment, then let his hand rest gently on her back. Lyra stepped closer. Her eyes, glowing like pale moons, met his without wavering. "You do not know how much this means." Daniel gave a half-smile, bitter and tired. "I have a feeling I'll find out soon enough." The villagers bowed their heads, murmuring in one voice, not chosen this time, but a word Daniel could not understand. A prayer, perhaps. A promise. The firelight flickered. The stars above seemed brighter. For the first time, Daniel did not feel like a wanderer. He felt tied, not by chains, by something heavier yet strangely lighter. Responsibility, belonging. And yet deep inside, a shadow lingered. He had made his choice. But choices always carried weight. He wondered what it would cost him in the end. The night grew still. The village breathed again. And Daniel, the man who had given a starving child his last ration, became more than a traveler. He became the thread of hope for an entire world.